So I am here with the amazing organization Wings, who's going to come and join us at our retreat this year in Lake Geneva. Welcome, welcome. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about Wings and the role that you play.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Luticia Fiorito, and I am the government relations manager. And I've been with Wings. I'm about to finish my sixth year. And my role is I manage everything that has to do with the government, which
Ooh, exciting.
very exciting indeed, especially during these fun times, we'll say. Um, but no, I've been with Wings for 6 years, and I think what really sealed the deal after I accepted the job is so once I accepted the job, many moons ago, you have to attend domestic violence training, 40 hours domestic violence training. And I remember that I had posted on Facebook that I was like, I'm sealed, I'm good. Because every person, so what happens during 40 hours training, besides being educated that much more on domestic violence, you also get to interact and meet with the CEO, the CFO, the staff, the directors, and so forth. And I was just so blown away by the tenure and the information and the passion that I was like, this is where I want to be. These are women, these are leaders, and they are, kicking butt and taking names about domestic violence. And we're not leaving any stone unturned. And so I've been so pleased to be a part of that team. And Wings as a whole, we just, to give you like a concise, what I would might say in an executive summary, is we just turned 40. So
Woo!
April 25th, 1985 was a great year for us. Back then, we embarked on what we thought we went into it with one set of lens, and it has just continued to pivot every which way so that we ensure that we are meeting the victims, who we also call survivors, where they're at each step of their journey. And we've been doing that for 40 years. And we do that in a variety of different ways that I'll be happy to share with you about.
Shoot, I was still in school in 1985.
Likewise.
And amazingly enough, most of the moms that will be at our retreat and most of the moms that are listening were not even thought of by that time.
Yes, I was getting ready to graduate eighth grade.
I think I just grew like 6 gray hairs right now.
Right? Like, holy cow. So yeah.
Exactly. So, there are a lot of myths about domestic violence and what that looks like. What are some common misconceptions that you hear, especially around like non-physical abuse?
Oh, well, I mean, there's so many myths about domestic violence. However, about non-physical violence is that it's not that bad. It's fine. You can deal with it.
Yeah.
You don't have any bruises on you. You're fine. You know, so he manages all the money, or they manage all the money, or you don't see your family as much as you might like to, or whatever that is, because domestic violence, as you imply in your question, is that it crosses physical, emotional, mental, and financial. And and I know we'll go into it a little bit further. So, but the mental and the emotional combined with the physical is what we're seeing as a much greater trend
Yeah.
over these past 5 years.
Do you think that does it like transition? Does it start off mental and then, kind of go through the different phases till it's be all three? Or is it variety of different situations?
I think each situation is unique as its own, and it's unique to the abuser, and it's as unique to the victim, um, and where they're at in life. Yeah.
So that makes sense. So the mom that's listening that maybe has a friend who, or even is in that same situation and is like, well, I don't know that's really abuse. What do you recommend for that?
I would recommend the friend or the person that they think is a victim.
Speak to both.
Okay, so the friend, I would just continue to be supportive because the worst thing that you can do is to shut down and say that, like, oh, Sally can't return my text messages. Sally can't return my calls. Oh, Sally unfriended me. Whatever that is, just make sure you leave that door open because
Mm-hmm.
one day, because on average, it takes an average 7 times for someone to leave their abuser.
Yep.
Um, and so just make sure that Sally, who in quotation marks, of course, and you could also even say Jim in that quotation mark too, because domestic violence does touch men. But leave that door open for them because the worst thing they can have is a closed door and not know where to go, which is just going to prevent them from leaving. But for the person that's being abused, is I would just recommend them to continue to reach out to anyone and everyone that they can and that they feel comfortable with, seeking advice and seeking counsel and start putting tools in their tool belt, if you will, of like, okay, this is the second time, this is the third time, making that whether it's a mental and as much of a checklist, if you will, of how many times this has happened, how many times this has happened. Because when the situation grows and increases, someone's going to want to have a record of, like, if it has to go to court or because there's children involved, or if it has to go to legal because of so much violence has happened. Um, Having that kind of documentation is always going to benefit you. It's not required, but it's going to benefit you. Um, and just continue to make note of what is happening. And also just try, I know it's really hard in that situation. I have a friend that's going through a unique situation right now, and just remember that you aren't alone. And maybe your friend that who Jane Doe, your friend Jane may not be the friend that's understanding. So reach out to the next friend. Reach out until somebody is hearing you and listening to you. Um, there's so many ways, and it's hard. And we saw that um, challenge, particularly during COVID, exacerbate because during COVID, as we all know, we were all sheltered in place. So there's nothing worse than now you're sheltered in place with your abuser. You can't go to work. You can't go to church. You can't go to the hospital. You can't. And so take that time to put your ducks in a row and see what your plan is to escape. Because aside from that, like I said, it takes 7 times to leave on an average. It also is the most dangerous time, that once you decide to leave, that's the most dangerous time.
Right. Yeah.
So, mhm.
So, I think that so much good information. So I love that you say it takes 7 times on average, right? So if you're in that situation and you have a friend who's like, oh, well, you just need to leave him. What's the matter with you, right? Like, okay, well, it's not that easy. It's hard, and that is the most dangerous time during that time. So you have to kind of prepare and get ready and know that it's okay. That if you don't leave like right away, just because your friend is mad at you or like is exasperated or whatever, does not mean that, just keep plugging away. That sometimes it just takes several times, several attempts, and, till you're safe.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that I literally actually was just having that exact conversation with a what's called a grant monitor on Thursday, because she is a victim, a survivor, and she was mentioning that people were like, "Well, why didn't you leave? Why don't you just leave? Why didn't you leave then? Why didn't you leave when?" Because you weren't in my situation. I didn't have control over the money. I don't have control over, I don't even know how much penalty I have. Do I have credit? Do I have good credit? What about the children? What about the pets? Where am I going to live? Especially nowadays, because rent and everything is so astronomical. And not knowing what I'm going into is just, is so compounding of what the what ifs, and the scary part is. And if you don't mind, Lisa, if I can just take it one other step, is that, like, so many women and men don't, they're embarrassed that this is happening to them. So therefore, I'm going to keep it a little bit closer to my chest that this isn't happening, maybe for my own pride, and also for, I don't want that out in the world. But then also because if it was happening to me, I am privileged in the sense of my race. I'm privileged in the sense of my education, but and because and I have a lot of assumptions based on those few things. Is that like, well, she's a white middle-aged educated woman. It can't be happening to her, So there. If I would ask any of your listeners to walk away with anything is that domestic violence does not discriminate.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yep. Well, and
Sorry.
I think that no, I think that's great. I think that you inadvertently brought up a great point, right? So we have this whole thing of why didn't you leave? It's almost like, well, what's the matter with you? And so, so if you're on the receiving end, it's like, what is the matter with me? Why can't I leave? Or what's the matter with me that I'm staying in this situation? And
Mhm.
I would love to see, no, what is the matter with her? Or what's the matter with him that is, that's perpetuating this abuse rather
Yeah.
than what's the matter with you because you didn't
Right.
leave? Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, yeah, exactly. Because once you're saying, like, well, why didn't you leave? Or what's the matter? Like, that type of questioning, you're inadvertently, indirectly saying, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you putting up with that?
Yeah. Exactly.
I wouldn't
Exactly.
put up with that. Well,
Right.
you don't know what you'll put up with until you're in that situation. And if I can just quickly say, is that so within that 40 hours training, we had this amazing exercise and it was called In Her Shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never heard of it, of course. And so it was a very interesting role. And so you were partnered up as teams and you were given a scenario and you had to go through all of the steps that a victim would go through. You know, you go to the church and the church would say this and okay, so you go back and then you go to the police and then the police say that like it was just very interesting of like all of the people that you typically interact with that. And you just and the short of that exercise and again, to walk away with today is that you just don't know what you would do when you're in those shoes.
True. That is so true. It's easy to say, well, I
It's
would,
I
and yeah, and you don't know. True.
exactly.
So, how does the role of being a mom influence a woman's decision to stay or leave? You touched a little bit on that.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm not a mom. However, obviously, many, if not almost all of our survivors are, and you don't want to leave because you're going to disrupt your children, their children's school. You're going to pull them away from that other parent. You don't want to do that because even though you're in an abusive relationship, regardless of what type of abuse it is, now you're saying that I have to pull them away from them and explain that to the child at the child level, and that doesn't always translate. So you you just stay for the children, because you don't want to disrupt their lives. Even you're like, it's okay. I will take whatever is going to happen to me today because I want my children to be settled and with their friends and in their school and all the things. I don't want to take them to a shelter where, there's so much insecurity. They don't know where their next meal is, or they're not going to have the cool clothes and toys that all the other children are going to have. Um, yeah, it's traumatic, but you
So as
have
moms,
to.
we almost think like it's selfish for me to,
Yeah.
to leave, and
Mhm.
and
It's
which
actually the
is
opposite.
such stinking thinking, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, actually, I obviously I won't say her name, but when I was talking with a friend last Sunday who's going through a unique situation, and I was just like, you have to remember what your children are seeing and hearing, because regardless of age, I'm gonna go to 2 to 18 or whatever, they're hearing and they're seeing what's happening to you, and either they're going to do it, there's a high probability that they will learn and do and continue that cycle, or that they will learn and be a victim. So this
Absolutely, absolutely.
leaving with children is definitely, I can only imagine, to be the hardest thing to do, but the smartest thing to do.
Absolutely. So, for moms who might be in these situations themselves, what is the first step that you'd encourage them to take? You touched on it a little bit, but what are like some concrete the first three things you need to make sure that you do before you leave?
Oh, before you leave, I would make sure that I have as many of your documents as possible, because the rest of the stuff can be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, But I would make sure that you have your driver's license, your state ID, those documents. And I mean, that's really honestly all you need. You're going to have your phone, turn off the location of your phone. So, your wallet, your phone, and if you can pack an overnight bag, great. But that's being very generous if you were able to pack an overnight bag,
Yeah.
because it doesn't really happen that way. And then what I would tell you to do is, each state has a domestic violence hotline. I'm in the state of Illinois, so Illinois has one, and then the city of Chicago has one. And you call that domestic violence hotline. They're going to perform an intake form or intake with you, and they're going to ask you certain questions. It's going to take you about 15, 20 minutes. They're always going to say, "Are you safe?" and be able to end the call at any time. You can also, with the hotline, either hotline, at least in Illinois, you can text it and you can go on Messenger and then go through the website and then obviously make the phone call. Because what they'll do through that intake, that 15, 20 minutes of interaction, they'll figure out where you are. And then they'll say, okay, this location has a bed for you and your children. Can you make it there within 24 hours? And do you need transportation? The minute she or he says yes, that bed is held. And then the hotline, and we'll say Wings in this scenario, coordinate so that they can get there safely.
Yeah, that's amazing because I don't think a lot of women and men for that matter too know that they're like we only have one car. He won't let me drive. And so I don't know, how would I leave? How would I get there? Or
Absolutely.
he would know, am I just supposed to make up an excuse? All right. So I love that you remove all the barriers from them.
Absolutely. Victims come with so many barriers, that compound on the next. And we are very lucky that we work with the rideshare companies that are local, and we have them sign this release of information so that they know that everything that they're doing with our company is confidential. We have them drop the victim off at a confidential, secluded space so that then our family advocate, which is a case manager, will go and pick them up so that the location is completely confidential.
So how, as a community, can we support those who are either men or women that are going through this situation?
Well, there's a variety of different ways. Volunteer, become educated, truthfully, start there. I would start with education. Educate yourself, however that might be. There are so many different ways. The websites, wingsprogram.com, it definitely has a lot of resources on there and again, I'm speaking obviously for Illinois, the Illinois Coalition, and so forth. But educate yourself on what the steps are, or what signs are, what the red flags are. I know that Wings goes into the community quite a bit, into community centers, into schools, into churches and synagogues, to educate their communities, so that they can help their community become educated, so that when somebody does open that door, you can be there for them. And then also, there's a ton of ways to volunteer. You can volunteer your time, you can volunteer your goods. Wings specifically has 4 different resale stores, and we accept goods. And then whatever goods that we have, we sell to that community, and all the profit goes directly into programming. However, all of those goods are also available to all of the victims that come through shelter, and through all of our housing units, because Wings does have, aside from we have 2 emergency shelters, but we also have 167 housing units, so that once you leave shelter, you can go into a safe housing unit after that. But also donate your time and your knowledge. Donating your knowledge and your skill set of expertise, such as legal services, your employment services, maybe you work in HR. There's so many different ways. I think that that's what's
Absolutely.
great too, because it's not a one, like, oh, you can't donate clothes. That's too bad. There's a million different ways that you could volunteer and donate.
I love
and be
that. And
interactive.
like say, too often we just go to those stores and think that we are getting a good bargain, but really, you're supporting something even more amazing.
Absolutely.
So is there anything that we have not covered that you think was just really important when it comes to domestic violence?
Oh, that's a great question. Hmm. Just always believe the person when they tell you.
Yeah.
Believe them,
Yeah.
no matter what. No matter that you know the abuser and you want to think that Jimmy wouldn't do that. If Susie told you, believe her.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because Jimmy seems like he's a nice guy, funny
Yeah,
and really affable doesn't necessarily mean that happens behind closed doors.
absolutely. That's what I would ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the retreat.
Okay.
So, one thing that I really love about the retreat is how it helps women just move from surviving to thriving. How
Mhm.
does Wings approach healing and rebuilding after abuse?
We have a couple different ways. So it's like I briefly mentioned, as soon as the person comes into shelter, they are paired with a family advocate. That family advocate provides case management services that involves revolves around advocacy and education. And their rights as a victim. And then we also have children's advocates that do the same, but specifically with the children. Um, and then we also have counselors. We have adult counselors that work with them in person, or virtually, or in crisis, or scheduled, and they are with them throughout their whole journey. And like I also touched upon earlier, is that as soon as they're allowed to be encouraged, to be frank, in our emergency shelters, like 3 to 4 months, because we want to make sure that when you're leaving that emergency shelter, you are exiting to a positive, you're exiting positively so that you're going into a safe, stable, confidential home that you feel that empowered with. And you're not just going to leave and go back to the abuser. And so through that, it's just hours of counseling. And then in November of 23, we recently opened an adult counseling and children's counseling community-based resource center. It's called the Foglia Family Resource Center, and we are serving children and adults that are not quite ready to leave their abuser, but are still getting those tools in their tool belt.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. So I have helped with the trafficking movement and some of those kind of things. And so I always on my retreats love to do something that gives back to the area where we
Yeah.
are. So you're going to be speaking at our retreat, which
Yeah.
in case you all don't know is in Lake Geneva at the resort over there. It's going to be the weekend of September 25th. And there will be a link for you to register because you're going to want to after we finish this conversation. So you're going to be speaking at a retreat, and then we're going to we'll build some, they have at Lake Geneva, they have a program where groups that come in can build, it's kind of like their own version of Build-A-Bear. So we're going to be building bears, and then you'll come in and talk, and we'll have lunch. It'll be great. But can you talk about what you're looking forward to most when you come?
I'm looking forward to meeting your members, to be truthful, because I want to share what we do and maybe some of the things that they might be able to replicate there in your area or where they live, and just share how they can get involved and to empower them to believe and empower them to ask questions. I'm just really looking forward to spending time with your members so that they understand, kind of like you and I touched about earlier and then before, about make sure that they recognize that domestic violence just doesn't discriminate.
Absolutely. And like, yes, our retreat is focused for the most part on spending time together, developing relationships, going to the spa, doing all those kind of things. But I also think it's
Wonderful.
important to have just that little piece of um giving back, and B, opening your world a little bit more, to what is happening out there. And,
Definitely.
chances are great that there will be at least one woman, if not more, we're having 30 women. So chances are there's going to be at least one who is struggling or isn't quite sure or whatever. And so to open the up helps, those around us who are there to kind of support them, but also to go back home and know, I just think it's important. I think the spa is amazing. I think rock climbing and horseback riding and all the goods just as important, but it's
Oh,
also important
yes.
to have that information and be informed and open our worlds a little bit more too.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. I might have to see what activity I can jump in on.
I love that. So we have lunch and then we have like free activities all afternoon. So you'll just have to come and we'll have to go ride scooters or something.
Okay.
You're so easy. Okay, so anybody who's watching that wants to learn more or get involved with wings, what's the best way to do that? If they want to kind of look it up before they go to the retreat and kind of
For
see.
sure. I would say go to www dot, which is funny that we say that, right? Wingsprogram.com. And there on the top banner, I believe it's more closer to the right, there's a drop down where it shows all the ways that you can get involved in, which also it talks about, which I can talk about when I come to the retreat, is we have a pantry that serves all of our housing units and survivors, but it shows you the greatest needs. So,
Yeah, well, so there might be some people obviously who are not going to the retreat, right?
mhm,
And so but they still think you're amazing as I do, and so they
mhm,
want to help. So
yeah.
you can go to that website and I'll put the website in the description so you can click on that and then, there's even if you live in Alabama or California or even if you're tuning in from London, like there's still ways that you can help.
Oh, 100%. And then you're welcome to share, Lisa, my contact information. And I may not be the right person, but I'm definitely able to be a conduit and get them to the right person. So absolutely. And yeah, we have Wings is currently has created a program. We're spreading our wings, as we call it. We are spreading our wings currently. We haven't made it to London, as you mentioned, but don't mark that off our territory. Um, we are looking at Florida and we're looking at at Nashville.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, we have
Truly?
Truly, we have a program which is called Survivor Lifeline, and we want to take it national. And so we have started with a council down in Florida, in Miami, and which I haven't got that road trip yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Um, but we're looking through that through the Survivor Lifeline lens program because you had asked about like what happens after, right? And so once you've got a survivor goes through our programming, they're given the opportunity when they are in a good space to give back themselves. Because as we touched upon before, is that like no one knows unless you've been in those shoes. So that survivor who's done the work, has gone through all the steps, and is now able to exit on the other side can come back and say, like, let me help you. I know what you're going through. Literally, these are the resources I did and used. So that's what that's for. Is a, a Survivor Lifeline takes a victim, a graduate of our program, and matches them with a current person that's in our programming and provides them emotional and mental support through as they continue their journey.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. I love
Yeah,
that so much.
thank you. Yeah. Oh,
So, is there one message or thought that you just want every mom who's watching this to remember?
oh gosh. Again, with the hard questions. Um, what one thought I want every mom to, I guess, just to go back to what I said earlier of your children are watching, your children are listening. We curb our stereotypically we curb our language when we're around children. We make up new swear words so that they don't know what we're saying, you
Right?
know, but we can't, you can only cover the bruises or the language so much. Your children watch and see you, and you're their role model, you know.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And also going back to it, the other piece is, if someone's sharing, no matter what you see, someone is
mhm,
sharing that there's something happening in their home, you need to believe them.
absolutely.
All right. So I like to finish every interview that I do with a little
All right.
rapid fire questions, right?
Oh man. Okay.
So I'll ask and you just say whatever comes to your mind.
Oh man. Okay.
Okay. What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
Oh, my hot tub.
Love it. Coffee, tea, or something else to start your morning?
Coffee.
How do you
Coffee,
take your
100.
coffee?
I take it with almond creamer and two sweet and low.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, what is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Um, Depending on who the person is, they are sometimes surprised that I served 8 years in the military and that I'm a Desert Storm vet. So, yeah,
I
I
love
get to
that.
surprise people a lot.
They're
So
like, what?
they're like, I didn't know that. And I was like, well, you didn't ask.
If you could have dinner with one historical woman, alive or
Oh.
dead, who would you
Hmm.
have dinner with?
Uh, a historical woman, alive or dead. I want to say, I want to say Gloria Steinem.
Oh,
Like,
I love it.
yeah. I mean, I would just pick her brain so much. I mean, she was just so ahead of her time and so passionate, and I want that energy. I want to suck it all out.
Oh, yes. What is your go-to song when you need a boost of energy?
Um, well, I do like Shabuzi. Um, uh, what is that bar song? That's um, what is it called? I don't even know the darn name of the song, but the Shabuzi song. Um,
Well, we won't make you do a little karaoke if you don't want
Thank
to.
you. Thank you very much. You do not want that.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh. Wings.
What is
I'm
it?
a hot wings.
Oh,
I'm a
hot
hot
wings.
wing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a
And not just
connoisseur.
like the buffalo hot wings. Like it's got to be the real, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The for real. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio, and I can give a shout out to that restaurant there. It's called Frickers, and they have the best wing that I'm familiar with. So, yes.
Ooh. I
Hmm.
have to swing in next time I'm like in the general
Oh
vicinity
yeah.
area on my
I
tour.
literally like import sauces from there so I can try to do it at home. It's crazy.
So, what is a hobby or skill you've always wanted to learn?
Oh. Quilting. I want to learn how to quilt.
Oh, are you left brain and you like that precise? Yeah, that's good.
I think that's also come with age.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like kind of cut it and like, is that good? Yeah. Cause I have friends that were really into quilting. And so I'd have to have a friend like sit next to me and like cut the square because I'm like, I like to cook like, oh, let's put all this and all that. Like I am
Yes.
not a precise at all. I'm all about the right brain, creative. Yeah. What's your favorite movie or TV show to binge watch?
Oh, movie. Well, you can't even if it's on television and it has commercials, you cannot walk by if Seven is on. I love Seven. Um, I love Silence of the Lambs, but I also love like City of Angels. Those
Yeah.
I would probably stop in my chat and be like, "Oh, it's this part. Oh, this is what she's gonna."
That's great. Okay, if you instantly could master one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, a superpower and why? I want a superpower. Goodness. The rapidness. Well, I want a superpower.
You want to
What
be
a super.
invisible and
I know.
like
I was like,
the professional thing would be like I want to be invisible because I want to go into all those homes and and see what's really
yeah,
happening. But the
yeah. I
personal
was thinking.
part is
I know. I was like, invisible did come to my mind first. So I'll stick with that. Yeah, I want to be invisible because I like to just analyze situations, maybe prevent a situation, or like if I could just be like, oh no, you just need to move this way, or like kind of like act like the puppeteer almost if you were invisible.
you could be the proverbial fly on the wall anytime you
Yes,
wanted to. That would be a
yes,
great superpower to have. Um,
absolutely.
well, I look forward to having you come to our retreat and speak.
Yes,
And so there will be information in the description if you want to come and join us, because obviously you do after listening to this. So come see us and we will talk to you all soon.